Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the new moon in October on the 27th, and it's going to be at 4 degrees of Scorpio opposite Uranus, and the healing crystal will be red coral, hence the red, and the fixed star will be in Syrma in the constellation of Virgo, and the tarot card will be the 5 of Cups, that miserable one. Anyway, so moon in Scorpio Decan 1 is actually in the precise degree of its fall at 3 degrees or close to it, 3 degrees of Scorpio, which is supposed to make it extremely unfortunate. So this is the devouring moon, the goddess Kali, and vagina dentata. Yes, that is a lady's part with teeth. The moon is desperately famished here, and it can also be sexually insatiable. The energy either becomes totally ruthless and plutonic with its hunger, or feels great fear of it. So those who learn to understand nature's sometimes cruel cycles of death and rebirth are less inclined to act in a kill or be killed mode, because they have faith in the power of resurrection. Now, talking about resurrection, I just want to mention this this thing on my shoulder here. I haven't suddenly grown 2 feet of hair, though I wish I had. It's an extension, clip-ons. So I was just missing my hair, and I made a real pig's ear of cutting it. So I now have to wear a fake ponytail. So just yeah, but I'm going to grow it long again. So, just a little resurrection of hair there as well. So anyway, nature always seeks to correct itself, even if it has to go through a bloody abortive stage first. So I think I'm going to talk about, that's going to be my subject later on when I have my little rant. So this is a decan of extremes, so it seems that success here can only be all or nothing. It's a blazing hot summer heat wave or a severe frost because of the stark contrasts in Scorpio with the moon in Scorpio 1. We have to learn to adapt fast. Those that do will not sink at this time, develop sharp brains and become wise survivors. The survival of the fittest plays out here, and it's true that this decan can fail spectacularly at times, but generally, despite branded unfortunate, the moon here can actually work to produce unexpected excellence. So Syrma is found in the hem of Virgo's dress, so there's a Persephone theme here as well. That's why I think the colours suit it very well too. The star is said to feature in the charts of Moses and Muhammad and is considered the most fortunate of the Arabic mansions. So that's a real contrast with it being in its fall. So that's what I mean, extremes. It's either fantastic or it's fallen woman. I think it's appropriate too that these religious heavyweights reside next to the stars in the crucifix, and definitely supports the importance of spiritual practice in this sector. The skirt also can refer to the vestments of priests and monks, since Eric Morse says it means to cover, to protect and to suppress. Morse also stresses that the significance of this star and its title lies firstly in the heavy personal responsibility which is implicit in the occult questing and acquisition of spiritual power. And also long hair is supposed to give you spiritual power as well, but I know this is fake, but the intention is there. So yeah, let's see if I can make some magic with it. So the tarot card is the 5 of Cups, and its divinatory meaning brings sorrow, loss, grief and suffering. Its very presence indicates that you have suffered a crushing blow on an emotional level. We must all learn to accept loss as part of our life, yet we flail and rail against it. We must trust that once we're prepared to let it go, the universe will replace our loss with something of worth and real value. So yeah, karmically, this decan may have to suffer loss in their life as payback from a past life where one's personal magnetism was used for sorcery and manipulation. So, you know, I've said before that I wonder sometimes if karmic karma, or supposedly this sort of karmic thing of, oh, this, whatever I've done badly in this life, I must have been really awful in another life and I deserve it. You just got to be really careful with that, because it can be used as a ploy to keep people down. And, you know, if people are poor, then it's like, oh, well, they must have been rich and abused that when they were in another life. You know, it's dodgy ground, really. But, you know, I do believe, you know, for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So we can still consider that with this card as well. So the moon opposite Uranus. Now, I did a post on this and I called it womb expulsion. Well, yeah. So yeah, the themes of abortion, which I will talk about later on, it seems to be, that's why it sort of came up in my mind. With moon opposite Uranus, it finds it hard to put down roots. It may come from the experience of early childhood trauma or premature expulsion from a warm, cozy womb, literally or metaphorically. The most obvious interpretation is the abandonment from the mother, so that the infant never really feels that it can count on being supported or comforted in the adult world. And so, you know, at this time, we are kind of forced to grow up and develop independence, maybe prematurely as well. So what happens with moon opposite Uranus is that it also creates an inordinate need for freedom in relationships. So what an average person might call affection, people with this aspect, and this aspect generally, it experiences it as cloying or smothering. Alternatively, the way to use this energy could also be, all right, you might have a close, loving relationship, but it involves long hours away from home or travel, which then will give you the space that you need. Okay, so the first face of Scorpio, according to the Picatrix, it's quite bloody as well, and the artwork that goes with it is too. So yeah, it's all very severe, isn't it? So the Picatrix, God, I wish I could say that word. The Picatrix says, a man with a lance in his right hand, and in his left hand he holds the head of a man. This is the face of settlement, sadness, ill will and hatred. Yeah, I mean, it's very kind of Medusa, isn't it? Perseus slaying the head of Medusa, even though it's a man. So the healing crystal I chose for this is red coral, and it really fits very well because it's a crystal that fortifies the blood and supports its flow and circulation. Red coral, according to the New Crystal Bible, is a joy bringer and restores confidence after previous setbacks. The magical significance is that it turns paler if you're tired or stressed and in the presence of a harmful person. So I thought that was very interesting. Hold it to decide a course or action. There it is. I wonder, yeah, there you go. There's my red coral. So the ancient Greeks believed that coral was formed from the severed head of Medusa. There you go. And it has given it protective associations against deceivers and manipulators. Coral teething rings were given to babies in many cultures to protect them against harm. So protect the babies. That's the thing that's my theme at the moment. So it's invigorating, warming and protective. Coral will help you eliminate uncontrollable emotions that can lead to obsessions. So that fits very well with Scorpio as well. This stone will give you the power to overcome your relationship challenges and always be a step ahead of people who have less than honourable intentions for you. It will give you the courage to face your rivals and get past your hindrances. The energy of this stone will also dispel the lethargy that you're going through with your partner or your relationship. So yeah. Also, it gives you the endurance to keep your promises and to come through for your significant other when they need you. So red coral is associated with Scorpio and its ruler Mars. Although coral is a red colour, its fleshy, peachy undertones are still soothing. That's why I chose it. And the crystal has a great balance of invigorating, warming heat combined with the protection of its fiery red hue. And I thought this was really useful as well. Very effective in getting rid of compulsiveness and quitting bad addictions. So, you know, the obsessional side of Scorpio and the Scorpio moon, and with also the fact that it's opposite Uranus as well, that is very obsessive. So yes, good for quitting that. Okay, so what got my goat this week? Well, it was actually some YouTuber did a really good breakdown of hypocrisy in how certain religious groups are always demonized, and it's always the Christians, and the furore that happened when you turn it round and use it against them. So there's a scene in the film The Kingsman where Colin Firth goes into this Christian church, and I mean, I know I've got to remember that in the film it's a simulation, but you know, it's still, whether it's a simulation or not, I'm sure if you could just imagine if that was in a well, if that was in a synagogue or a or if it was Muslims, there would be outrage about it. But it's very, very graphic and very, very over the top, and it has Christian extremists really going for it. You know, like there's a preacher who's just going crazy, going on about abortion and gays, you know, just as the worst you could possibly get. So, you know, basically Christian extremism. And so then Colin Firth in the end goes through and just massacres them all. But the thing was, somebody took that and put Trump's head on Colin Firth doing the massacre, and put things like Obama and CNN, and I haven't actually seen it, but I've seen someone analysing it, on the heads of the people being shot. So this was a meme. It turned into a meme, but it's caused outrage, and you know, people in the mainstream media going, this is awful, and but the weird thing is nobody said it was awful. No Christian groups really got upset about that scene, which is awful. But I suppose it's because there aren't any, I mean, where are the churches that really are strongly, well, I don't know, someone will probably tell me there are, but preaching to, you know, to kill gays, or condemning people who are pro-choice and whatever. I mean, anyway, the thing is, it just made me think that's the only group you can really have a go at. And I just thought it was really interesting how when it was turned round that it caused outrage, but not when I don't understand. Maybe there were some Christian groups who had a go at The Kingsman. But the weird thing was that the film itself has been called right-wing, because I think the director has said that he's a conservative. But if that's right-wing, then but it's right-wing, but it's sort of condoning that these extreme nutters deserve to be massacred, you know. And then I was thinking of the abortion law as well, and I just saw a headline, 22 weeks abortion is legal now in Australia. And somebody also showed exactly what happens in, well, I mean, it was a very kind of graphic video from someone who's pro-life, saying that each limb is pulled out one by one. It's just horrific. Maybe that's wrong. I haven't researched it, I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. because that's the only way they can get the baby out, and then they crush the brain in the end. Horrible. Anyway, and then I just thought, then I looked at the world map for where abortion is illegal and where it isn't, and yeah, all the Western countries, abortion is legal, obviously. So it's all the areas where there's demographic problems, where we obviously need replacing, abortion is legal, and all the areas like South America, all these places, it's illegal, and they have very high birth rates. Kind of obvious, really. And I didn't know this, but it's still illegal in Malta. It's the only EU country, it's where, you know, I'm half Maltese, where it's still illegal. So that's interesting. Ireland's gone now, because Ireland was a heavily Catholic country. And it's like, well, you know, they're condemned, but these are very religious countries. I mean, Malta there's a church on every corner. Whereas if you look at all the other, I'll probably put a map up where you can see where there are restrictive abortion laws. And, you know, it's in Africa, it's in Latin America, in the Middle East as well. And when I looked up what Islam says about abortion, and I came across a preacher, and he was basically exactly like the guy in the Kingsman preacher, you know, but it was Islam. I mean, this is real, for real, not in a film, and everyone's fine about that. And, you know, I don't mind, you know, freedom of religion, and I, if anything, I'm weirdly in a sort of, not exactly in agreement with Islam, but for them, that's fine for them. So it's just all very unfair, really. That's all I'm saying. And I think in the West, we have to really rethink what we're doing and not see it as, I mean, see, this is the thing. I don't want it to go back to backstreet abortions and really awful, you know, and say, you know, there are cases where I don't see why it has to be legalised after a certain time. There's plenty of time before 22 weeks to make a decision, and it doesn't have to go that far. And then it borders on child sacrifice. It's quite sickening, and my concern is for the mental health of the woman, because no matter what you say, that's going to haunt them. So it's not an easy decision, but I just think that the later you leave it, the more bloody it gets, and it's, you know, it's an unsavoury topic. And I think for this new moon, I just thought, let's talk about something is a bit it's controversial, but why is it controversial? I know a girl at college when I was in art school, a long time ago. She had an abortion while she was at college, and she did loads of artwork about it, and the artwork was so disturbing because it obviously really upset her. And I guess people will say, oh, well, that's because of all the pro-life people making you feel guilty. But I don't think anyone can really make you feel guilty. I think when I saw the artwork, it was heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. So, you know, you could see it. You could see it comes out somehow. So we just think what we're doing in the West for F's sake, because the West isn't the whole world, and the West doesn't know best, I don't think, when it comes to these things. So we'll see. Anyway, so that brings me to the end. Sorry, maybe we should end on a good note. The good note, resurrection. And I think, okay, if you have had a termination in your life and you regret it, I guess as long as you have learnt from that, you know, we have to learn from things. You're not condemned for all time, and you know, I don't believe that. But just respect, don't celebrate it. It's not something to be celebrated. That's distasteful. You know, I think you should be able to mourn it, and yeah, you should be able to mourn it like any other death, and give the respect to that soul. Or maybe they come back again if you have another child. You know, maybe they do. But if you look at what other religions say about it, not just Christians, they're all in agreement. They're all in agreement. Only kind of new agey people seem to have a different take on it. But all the religions, they're in agreement for a reason. All right then, so that brings me to the end. Let's start afresh with this Scorpio new moon with fake hair. All right, all the best, bye-bye.